Hello and welcome back to Searching the Archives. Today we're going to be reviewing a very special book, The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This book has attained an almost revered status. It's one of the greatest literary works of all time and the fifth and final novel of his five major novels. I've read four of the five now. I've read Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment, Demons, this being the fourth, Brothers Karamazov, and only The Idiot remains for me. I intend on reading them all because they offer such penetrating psychological insights. These books are philosophical. They ask deep questions. They take character traits. You basically meet people you've met in real life, but you meet them in fictional form in these books. Dostoevsky is a master of taking character extremes. And when I say extremes, I mean characters that have been played out to their logical conclusion. And he weaves them into a tapestry. He places them all into tight quarters and lets the story unfold. And the interplay between the characters is really where his novels shine. So the story revolves around a kind of crazy wild man father named Fyodor Pavlovich. Interestingly enough, the only character in any of Dostoevsky's novels that shares his first name, and his three sons. The eldest, Dmitry Karamazov, is a sensualist, someone in pursuit of the pleasures of life, women, drink, things of that nature. The middle child is Yvonne, and he is a rationalist, an extreme intellect. And the youngest, of course, is Alexei, or Aliosha, as he's often referred to. Aliosha is a monk, a novice in the local monastery, and sort of a spiritualist, for lack of a better word, although I think that's slightly misleading. This book also contains a murder mystery. I want to say up here at the front, I'm not going to ruin the murder mystery. I will be discussing many of the characters in depth, and that may give some minor spoilers, but I will certainly make extra effort not to ruin the narrative of this book. One of the things that can be off-putting to people who encounter Dostoevsky's works is the many nicknames the characters have. So Dmitri might be Mitya, Mityenka, Alexei becomes Aliosha, Alioshenka, Alioshka, and you might think while reading the book, why is he doing this? Like, this is just confusing. I'm losing track of the characters. It's a very important detail, okay, because it reveals the personal familiarity between the characters. For instance, everyone refers to Alexei as Aliosha. And in Russian, typically the longer or the more Alioshenka, right? Like the longer the name, the more cutesy the name, the more familiar you are with the person often. So it's interesting that like everyone refers to Aliosha in his familiar nicknames, almost universally. Yvonne, on the other hand, is always referred to as Yvonne. It's, I think, only once or twice when Fyodor, the father, is outstandingly drunk does he actually refer to Yvonne by Vanya, Vanchenka. So just be aware of that. It's not a useless detail, and it's actually an extra layer of insight into the character development. All that being said, this is not an easy read. And in fact, I wouldn't recommend it as the first. If you haven't read Dostoevsky, don't jump to The Brothers Karamazov. I love this book, but I would go to Crime and Punishment first. You have to have a commitment to read this book. If you think you're going to get spoon-fed spiritual or insightful truths about the world, don't come to this book. I've actually made 3 attempts, and on my 3rd attempt, I finally finished the novel. At the end of the book, you're almost left. I was listening to another reviewer talk about it. You're almost left with a buzzing glow. You just can't believe what you just read. So many times it took you on unexpected turns. The more life experience that you have going into this book, the more I think you will get out of it. So again, I'm not going to discuss the narrative mystery, but I do want to talk about 3 notable events or things that stuck out to me while reading the book. And the first of which is a later encounter with Liza, or Lise, as she's often referred to. Aliosha goes to speak with her, and she's in a very, very strange state of mind. It's like she's lashing out at life. She's in the depths of hell interiorly, and she's kind of trying to make others feel her pain so to speak, just to kind of push off that painful feelings that she's dealing with. She knows rationally that she should be acting in a different way, but she's kind of in a frenzy of despair. And why does this matter to you? It's thought-provoking and it's important because you might have Elise in your life. Oftentimes we have people we know who they're just thrashing. They know they should be acting a different way, and yet they do the opposite. They're in the pits of despair. And so if you know Elise, you can better have insight into the workings of their mind. Dostoevsky carries the character out to the logical conclusion. So you might have some, we're talking about a 100-mile long road, and Elise is at the very far end. People in your life might not be at the very far end, but they may be well down that road. And so I think it gives you an insight into someone's psyche that you could really help them. And so I think it's very important. That's why I wanted to touch on it in this video review here. It's also possible there's some subtle hints that she was kind of impacted by Ivan's lines of thinking. At times I thought maybe that the nihilism that comes out of this line of thinking may be what is driving Lise to her into her frenzied state. Not clear. So a bit of a ramble there, but that brings me to my second point, which is if we know people and you meet people in this book, Elder Zosima sort of represents. He's the elder, the spiritual authority of the local monastery, and there's a reflection where he's talking about not judging others, and it goes like this: brothers, have no fear of men's sin. Love a man even in his sin, for that is the semblance of divine love, and is the highest love on earth. Love all God's creation, the whole and every grain of sand in it. Love every leaf, every ray of God's light. Love the animals, love the plants, love everything. If you love everything, you will perceive the divine mystery in things. And once you perceive it, you will begin to comprehend it better every day. And you will come at last to love the whole world with an all-embracing universal love. I think one of the central themes of this novel is drawing the good out of those around us. All of us are sinners. All of us have struggles. We fall short. To judge everyone by their failings does no justice and does not help. Elder Zosima's words are carried out in the character of Aliosha. And this is the final touch point I want to speak to. Aliosha is my favorite character I've ever met in a fictional work. He's a true hero. As somebody who's read a lot of books in the Christian tradition, spiritual books and stuff, you kind of develop a spidey sense for like a fake, basically if Aliosha was not a very well put together character, and he was just a simple, always do-gooder who, it would just be sort of cheesy, and you the reader would pick up on that, right? But this is not that. This is not that. And in fact, Aliosha has an edge to him. Throughout the whirlwind of everything that's going on throughout this novel, Aliosha always sees the good. Very hard to explain if you haven't read the book. I think belief, the word belief, to the non-believer has taken on a very poor connotation in today's world. Belief has historically not meant just I assent to this specific statement on paper. Belief also carries with it a living out of those things. And that's what we see in Aliosha. If you'll allow me, I'll read a quick excerpt from another book I'm reading by Father Thomas Merton called The New Seeds of Contemplation. He puts it better and more succinctly than I can about what's so appealing about Aliosha. Father Merton writes, "The saints are what they are, not because their sanctity makes them admirable to others, but because the gift of sainthood makes it possible for them to admire everybody else. It gives them a clarity of compassion that can find good in the most terrible criminals. It delivers them from the burden of judging others, condemning other men. It teaches them to bring the good out of others by compassion, mercy, and pardon. A man becomes a saint not by conviction that he is better than sinners, but by the realization that he is one of them, and that all together need the mercy of God." It's hard to review this book. I have read through it once. I plan to read through it again, and I also think that I will read through it in a different translation. The first time I read through it in Constance Garnett's version. There are other versions that are more or less literal. If you're going to read the book, look into various translations and reviews of them. I think that's important. But the point is, a book like this can't be read once. It can't even be reviewed properly after reading it once. I'm not sure that I'm prepared or qualified, but I hope that you got something out of this review. Again, not a book for spoon-feeding simple spiritual truths. This is a very complex book and the pinnacle of one of the greatest writers that has ever lived, Fyodor Dostoevsky. Thank you for stopping by the channel. Please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you.